What if you met someone at exactly the wrong time? Not because the feeling isn't real, but because life gets in the way. An Affair to Remember isn't just a love story. It's a film about timing, about chance, and about a promise that becomes one of the most famous moments in cinema history. But here's the question, is it really the most romantic film ever made, or something more complicated? Let's take a look. The film follows Nickie Ferrante, a charming but unreliable playboy, and Terry McKay, a singer with her own complicated life. They meet aboard a transatlantic cruise. At first it's playful, light, almost effortless, but as the journey continues, something changes. What begins as flirtation becomes something deeper, something neither of them expected. The problem is they're both already committed elsewhere. So instead of running away together, they make a decision. They part ways and agree to meet again in 6 months at the top of the Empire State Building. If they both show up, it means the feeling is real. And this is where the film does something clever, because it takes a simple love story and it turns it into a question. Cary Grant brings charm, warmth, and just enough vulnerability to Nickie. At first, he's easy to like, but not entirely trustworthy. And that's important because as the film progresses, you begin to see something change. Deborah Kerr is equally compelling as Terry. There's strength in her performance, but also restraint. She doesn't overplay the emotion, she lets it build gradually. And that balance between the two leads is what makes the relationship believable. Now, Cary Grant was initially unsure about taking on the romantic roles later in his career, but his performance here shows a more reflective side, adding depth to what could have been a straightforward character. Director Leo McCarey approaches the film with a sense of elegance. Everything feels measured, controlled. The pacing allows moments to breathe. Conversations unfold naturally, and the film takes its time building the connection between the two leads. It doesn't rush because it understands that emotion needs space. Now, this film is actually a remake of McCarey's earlier film Love Affair from 1939. He revisited the story nearly 2 decades later, refining it, reshaping it, and ultimately creating what many consider the definitive version. But just when the film seems to settle into a familiar rhythm, it takes a turn, because this isn't just a romance, it's a test of commitment, of patience, of belief. When the time comes for their reunion, the film shifts tone. What was once light becomes uncertain, and suddenly the promise they made feels fragile. And this is where the emotional weight really lands, because the film doesn't rely on grand gestures. It relies on absence, on silence, on what isn't said. An Affair to Remember has influenced countless romantic films. Its themes of fate, timing, and second chances continue to resonate. And its final act is often referenced as one of the most emotional in classic cinema, because it captures something universal, the idea that love isn't always simple or easy, but it matters. And by the end, you're not just thinking about whether they meet, you're thinking about everything that had to happen for them to try. This is a film that rewards patience. It builds slowly but deliberately, and when it reaches its emotional peak, it stays with you. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's honest. If you've never seen An Affair to Remember, it's essential viewing, especially if you enjoy character-driven stories with emotional depth. And if you have, watch it again and see how differently it feels the second time. And if you enjoy classic cinema, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for my next classic movie review here on Golden Age Flicks. In the meantime, keep watching the classics, and as always, keep the projector running.